Good evening, and thank you for being here this evening. I would like to call the El Portal regular council meeting for Tuesday, January 28th to order at 7 o'clock p.m. If I can please have a moment of silent meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, if I can have roll call, please.
Roll call, Mayor Cubillos.
Here.
Vice Mayor Nickerson will not be in tonight. Councilperson Urban.
Present.
Councilperson Roman.
Here.
Also present for the record, Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk, Christia Liu, Village Manager, Norman Powell, Interim Village Attorney, Chief Magnuson.
Thank you. With that, if at this time, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as is, or are there any additions or deletions?
Motion to approve as is.
Motion's been made by Councilperson Roman. Is there a second?
I will second.
Second by Councilperson Urban. All in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Hearing none, our agenda for January 28th does pass as is. May I get a motion to approve the minutes for our December 17th regular council meeting?
Motion to approve.
Motion's been made by Councilperson Roman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilperson Urban. All in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, our minutes for the December 17th regular council meeting does pass, and we post it on the website. At this time, we have a couple of presentations this evening. First and foremost, we are swearing in a part-time officer. Angel Otero will be joining our police force. So if I can please have our Chief Magnuson come up to the podium, tell us a little bit about him, and then bring him up so we can swear him in.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening. Good evening. What's most important here with the police department is always, in any police agency, is to have the right people in the right place, whether they're a full-time capacity or a part-time, what we used to call reserve. Technically, the terminology is part-time, non-compensatory, meaning they're not getting paid, but that is the proper status according to FTLE. So it's a long, drawn-out word. I got you. And reserve sounds so much easier to say, but in theory, they're supplement to what we do. And it didn't come any clearer than when we went through a little bit of things with illnesses and injuries in December, how the part-time non-compensatory officers really rose to the level and took care of business at the hardest time of the year. And everything, knock wood, went very smoothly, and everybody's back to normal by and large to a certain extent. That being said, I fully understand the need to enhance the part-time non-compensatory personnel. But just because we need to enhance it doesn't mean I'm going to settle on just anybody. It's a drawn-out process. Some people have applied, and they, to me, they didn't feel like they were the people we were looking for. Some I thought were, so did our background investigators, and it turned out, sadly, they weren't for a variety of reasons. But one did rise to the forefront, and it is a drawn-out process, and it should be in police work to get the right people. And it was towards the end of the summer, and all the forms and all the hoops he had to go through, kept calling, showing interest. We said, we're interested too, it's coming, and it did, it arrived. Everything got taken care of, and I have to tell you something about Officer Otero. Extremely mature individual, 20 years in corrections, Corrections Officer of the Year 2005, has worked in an auxiliary capacity with FHP, with Doral, and I have my contacts at Doral who spoke glowing terms about him. It wasn't the official investigative path, but sometimes this bears the best results talking to people, and they had nothing but glowing things to say about Angel Otero. He also has a number of life-saving awards, so he's that type of person that I'm looking for that's going to jump into the fray if need be and have a very calming influence on the younger officers when he's out there as well. He's just a very mature individual, very calm, and I think very highly of him, as does the lieutenant, as did Officer V, who does the initial backgrounds and goes through it. and he's not a person to mince words. When we had other people that I thought good, he brought it to my attention, well, here's why I don't think this A, B, and C, and he was right. Here's where he's telling me, I think this guy is good for A, B, C, D, E, and F, and going down the alphabet line. So I said, you sold me, and I'm very happy to have him on board. So I'd like to get him sworn in, and if you would, come on up here. I also want to thank Officer Lopez from Biscayne Park for being here as part of the festivities. Thank you very much. And Officer Otero's beautiful family, thank you for being here. If you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Angel Otero, being duly sworn in by the Chief of El Portel, do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and of the state of Florida, and that I will, in all respects, observe the provisions of the Constitution of the state of Florida and the charter of the village of El Portel, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of which I'm about to enter. I do further swear and affirm that as a police officer, I will faithfully serve and protect to the best of my ability all citizens regardless of race, color, or creed. I accept by the law enforcement code of ethics as my standard of conduct while on and off duty, and swear to faithfully abide by and defend the same. So help me God. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. As you can see, I have the most beautiful wife, daughter, and mother-in-law. I love all three of them. I'm a lucky guy, and I appreciate and look forward to the opportunity that you've afforded me and entrusted me with. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, thank you for coming. Thank you.
Welcome.
May we get a picture with you? Again, welcome to the Village of El Portal, and we look forward to seeing you out there, Officer Otero. Before we go into F2, I also want to acknowledge we have Maggie here from Commissioner Chair Edmondson's offices, who she had a birthday yesterday, so happy birthday to Commissioner Edmondson. I'd like to go to F2. The Public Affairs Chair, Councilperson Roman, has put together a Home of the Month. I think we're in our third year. With that said, she has invited the recipients and the winners of the December Home of the Month. And if you all have not seen their homes, I encourage you next year to go by these addresses, because each and every single year they encourage and inspire me to want to do my home. And then I go by their house and I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. So with that said, I'll go ahead and I'll have Councilperson Roman introduce her first, second, and third guest.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I'm Councilperson Roman, and as the mayor mentioned, this program started about 3 years ago. It was an initiative that was brought to me by a resident and friend that is very much involved in our village, David Ward and Cecil, his partner. And so this is something that they brought. They had it where they came from, before living in El Portal. And it was a pleasure of mine to sponsor it for the village. I've continued to sponsor it, support it. I participate in the committee. And this is the third year that we're awarding the holiday decorations. And this first prize actually won our first year that we did this program. And so I'm very happy to see them again. And every year they continue to grow their decorations. So if you've not seen their decorations, as the mayor mentioned, I recommend that you take a look. December 2020. It'll come really before we know it. So the address is 485 Northwest 87th Street. And the first place, home of the month for December, is Eric and Cassandra Sweet. And they win a $150 Home Depot gift card. So please come to receive it. What was that? Oh, I think the mayor said that now you could probably get 50% off Christmas decorations. Congratulations, and thank you so much for helping our village be festive during the holidays and beautiful during the entire year.
It's just something we like to do.
Do you want to? Yeah, you want to speak? Come on. What inspires? Tell us what inspires you.
I'm just the installer, but she has all the ideas. I do all the hard work, and then she get the accolades for it. So, but we just like doing it. We appreciate the opportunity what you guys giving, but she just likes to do lights. So we're gonna keep doing it as long as we can. So, thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. Congratulations.
I still remember the first year we went to your house with the Christmas caroling kids. I think that was probably 5 years ago. We went to your house by surprise. Back then, we weren't letting anybody know where homes we were going to. Yeah. And only because I know your sister, I felt comfortable just knocking on your door. So I knocked on the door. They're like, "What?" And we sang, and I have a great picture of that. And your home was beautiful then. So you guys have only elaborated, making it a little tougher to follow up. But thank you so much for doing that. Mhm.
Great. And our second place winner wins a $100 Home Depot gift certificate card. And their address is 315 Northeast 88th Street. And I believe I see Gregory Walton here to accept this.
And the pooch.
And the pooch. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You want to share with us what inspires you?
Well, actually, it's my other half. He's on his way from Fort Lauderdale, stuck in traffic, but he's a computer programmer, and this year he decided to upgrade all the lighting to LED and sequence it with all kinds of programs to do all kinds of things. It started in beginning of October, so the first stage was Halloween, and then it shifted over to Christmas. So he's the one who deserves all the credit. I'm just the hired hand to help him do it.
Okay, well, thank you
Thank
again.
you.
Congratulations. And the third place winners win $50 gift certificate from Home Depot. And the address is 295 Northeast 88th Street. And the home belongs to Robert Ventura and Victor Ospina, who I do not see here. No, they're not here today. But we will make sure that they get their gift certificate. And we thank them, and hopefully maybe they can tell me what inspires them, and I'll share it via our next newsletter. I do want to say that we're looking for another chair for the committee. Unfortunately, our chair had to step down. So if anyone feels inspired to chair the Home of the Month committee and work with the other members, please contact me. You can contact me via email. And I'll be happy to speak with you and tell you what it all entails. It's not a lot of work, so I hope to get some emails or calls. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilperson Roman. Good job. Good and welfare, anybody would like to come up at this time and, comments, questions, suggestions? Okay. Hearing none, we have two brief items, today at the agenda before we go into our resolutions and ordinances, and they're all for informational purposes. The Planning and Zoning Committee meets, like all the other committees, every other month. And the last Planning and Zoning Committee that we had, it was a very long night. And I mentioned something, and I just wanted to reiterate it, not only to the council for feedback, but so that the residents are aware. I'd like to propose that at least for this year, from January to October, that our Planning and Zoning Committee not only meet every month, but that it meets on a separate night. The third night that the last Tuesday when we were here, we left here at about 11:45. And as we move into a new year, I think we need to be a little more mindful of families, of timing, of hiring babysitters, being away from families and all that good stuff. And more importantly, when you're sitting in the audience, just the ability to be able to take in all that information when it starts at 7, and if it's still registering at 11 or 15 in the evening. So with that said, and our committees, which is where we workshop all of our ideas or items, that's the opportunity for the committee members to have conversation and go back and forth and make recommendations to the committee so that that item comes to the full council. It merits the time that it needs. So with that said, our planning and zoning has been very busy. So I would encourage having our planning and zoning on the second Tuesday, if it's the pleasure of the clerk, the attorney, the manager, and of course, all of the members on the council who we sit on that committee. So again, I wanted to bring it up. It's not something that we have to vote on. It's more something we have to agree on. The first thing we'd have to agree is, are you okay having it every month? And are you okay with having it on the second Tuesday of the month? We can discuss it a little bit, and then we can kind of solidify via email with the clerk so that we don't have to drag it out. But I think if I get the idea from all of us here, because we all have to be here. So if I can.
I'll chime in. Okay, so I certainly think it's a very good idea to have it monthly, and I'm fine with the second Tuesday. I'm just curious why it wouldn't be the same week that it had been previously, and that's really my only question. But I absolutely think it's even necessary, not just a good idea, but necessary that we have it every month. So
Okay, and I'll answer that in a second. Any other Councilperson Roman?
I'm okay with it. I don't have any comments. I do believe that we have a lot going on, and not being here that late on a night is helpful. So.
To the attorney, to the manager, and to the clerk, are you all able to make it on the second Tuesday of the month?
I am.
Okay. Okay. Councilperson Urban, the reason I keep going on Tuesday is because about maybe 4 years ago at a State of the Village, I made a recommendation that if the council would continue agreeing, that we try to have all of our meetings on a Tuesday night. Only because at least the residents know where we're at on a Tuesday night, because our council meeting's already on a Tuesday night. And we all have work, we have to plan, we have family outings. So if we can commit, okay, no, I can't go to dinner, I can't, work late a Tuesday because it's a government night. And that's really, it can change at any time. That's the only reason why. Okay, great. So right now, to the clerk, we are just gonna have to re-edit it so that it goes on the website, it'll go in the newsletter. And then what we would have to do is that third Tuesday, that I think is Public Affairs and Admin and Finance, we just have to make sure that you all have and the residents have the right time. So are you guys gonna start at 6:30, you're gonna start at 7, or at 7:30, the 3 meetings? So that's, other than that, planning and zoning will then start at 6:30 on the second Tuesday of every month. Okay, perfect. The other thing I wanted to bring up to the council, just for you all to think about, and maybe it's something that we need to think about in moving forward, is we have the committees staggered every 30 minutes. And as we've all noticed, it takes a lot longer than 30 minutes. And it's a bit unfair if you're coming to a 7 o'clock and the 6:30 ends at 7:45. So at some point, we all need to decide how we're gonna better handle that. Is it gonna be maybe 2 meetings instead of 3? Again, doesn't have to happen, but I think let's all start thinking about that. And maybe when we meet in the summer for a budget workshop, we take a look at that and you all can maybe put that forward for the new year. But I do believe that 3 in a night and the way we have it staggered for 30 minutes hasn't made sense so far, and it's unfair to the public. It's my opinion. Okay. Just a food for thought. Okay, so we're gonna go into H2 again. It's just for discussion. At the July suites, thank you. It's so good to see you all. Happy New Year. Thank you for being here. At the July town hall, we had a resiliency town hall. And then we also, at my State of the Village, I made mention that I really would like El Portal to start a sustainability resiliency task force. I think it's great that Miami Shore's mayor jumped on it, and they've passed it recently in their council, I think about a week ago. So I wanted to bring it up, not only for discussion, but I'm gonna bring it up at the Planning and Zoning first meeting in February. When I brought it up was because that July town hall was incredibly productive and informative. And a lot went on in there. But as we know already, we don't have a lot of staff. If we can form a resiliency task force made up of residents who have expertise in certain arenas, they can help us carry out certain projects that would really be of value to the manager and to El Portal as a whole. For example, last year, Resiliency 305 was a big thing that all the mayors came together and there was an accord that was signed, but with that comes things that must happen. And if we're not following up on that, then it's kind of like, what's the whole point? So I do believe that if we could pick members for a resiliency and sustainability task force through a resolution, that it would greatly benefit the village of El Portal. Again, this is just for brief discussion and intro, but we'll dive into this at the first planning and zoning meeting that we're gonna have in, not the first, the next one in February, which I think is February 11th, is the second Tuesday. I asked the attorney who, when he was with North Bay Village, coincidentally, they started a resiliency task force, so he has a resolution that I'm going to have him sent to the clerk so that you all can just take a look at it. And it would be something that would be tied in together. So it would be a resiliency and sustainability task force made up of residents via a resolution. So just again, a little FYI for all of us. I brought it up here because that planning and zoning meeting was so late that I didn't get to bring up these things, and I just wanted for informational purpose for all of you to start thinking about it. So when we meet in February, you have an idea as to where this is coming from. And it started last July at the Resiliency Town Hall that we held here. So with that said, any questions on H1 or H2 from the council? Okay, hearing none. Again, we'll talk about H2 in greater detail at the planning and zoning. And thank you all for agreeing for P&Z, because I think that's going to be important that we let the residents know that we'll be meeting every month. All right, so we're going to go into the first resolution, which is Resolution 2020-01, which is the El Jardín Stormwater Phase 1. If I can have the attorney read it into the record, and then have our manager give us a little background on that.
A resolution of the El Portal, Florida Village Council authorizing a change to the construction location limits for the Phase 1 construction of the El Jardín Stormwater Drainage Improvements, authorizing the village, computer just went down. I was trying to plug it in, sorry. Authorizing the village manager to take action and providing for an effective date. Too late.
Good evening, everyone. This is a resolution asking for a change or allowing a change in the El Jardín Phase 1 stormwater design project. That change became necessary after 2 years of painstakingly attempting to get an easement from the residents that are abutting the C7 canal for an outfall. We were not able to successfully get an easement to utilize, I think it was about 7 feet of the property owner's property for an easement. So we had to look at an alternative. And the alternative is this present design before you. This was addressed in the Public Works Committee meeting at the beginning of this month with our engineers. And I worked with our engineers to ensure we were presenting something that would be acceptable to FDEP. FDEP is fine with this and is allowing us to move forward with the design if this is accepted by our council. So we ask that you please accept.
And I apologize if you said this, but I just want to reiterate, this is important to change because this was money that we received through legislative session in 2017, which was $500,000. And if we don't make the change, then we have to give the money back. Correct?
Exactly, and I'm sorry I left that part out. Yes, that is very important to maintain those funds. We need to present a design so that we can then move on to construction. So it is imperative, and we don't want to send money back when we do need stormwater improvement.
Any questions from the council? Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the resolution 2020-01?
I'll motion to adopt.
Motion's been made by Councilperson Roman. Is there a second?
I will second.
Second by Councilperson Urban. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call?
Roll call, Councilperson Urban.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Before we go into our second resolution, I want to acknowledge our Citizen of the Year, Hugh Gladwin, who is here this evening. How are you? Nice to see you. Happy New Year. Next, we have Resolution 2020-02, which is a special election 2020 vacancy for seat 3. If I can please have the attorney read it into the record.
A resolution of the Village Council of El Portal, Florida, calling a special election and runoff election if necessary to fill the vacancy in Council Seat 3 for the unexpired term, authorizing the Miami-Dade County Canvassing Board to serve as canvassing board for the special election, approving proposed agreement with the Miami-Dade County Supervisor of Elections to conduct the election and to provide poll workers, electing not to provide for early voting, providing for severability, providing for conflicting resolutions, and providing an effective date. Introduced by Village Clerk.
This is necessary, as if you are not aware of at the moment, we do have a vacancy, and we've had a vacancy since December 19th. And as a result, and per our charter, the council is unable to appoint anyone. The only way the council would be able to appoint someone without a special election is if there's less than 6 months left in the term. Unfortunately, that is not the case. There's more than 6 months left in the term, and as a result, we must have another special election to fill the vacancy because we're unable to have the vacancy. And what our charter dictates is that it cannot be before 30 days of the vacancy, but it must be within 90 days of the vacancy. So as a result, here we are, and the clerk has done all the due diligence with the attorney, with the Special Elections Board to ensure that we're following the proper process, and here we are today. And that's why we have this, so it's mandated, we really don't have a choice on this at the moment. Any discussion from the council?
Let me think. I don't want to jump ahead as I look at item K, though. Taking this by itself, we're simply establishing that we're going to have a special election.
Yes.
Okay. And then we'll get into the weeds on item K, is that right?
Repeat that again?
Agenda item K. K1.
Oh, yeah, K1
Yes.
has nothing, I mean, it has something to do, but it has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But for this resolution, we're simply establishing we will have a special election.
We must have one, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Only question.
Just to expand on that, Councilman, it's also noting the qualifying dates and the actual proposed election date and also runoff date. So per the resolution, the qualifying period would start on Friday, February 21st, 2020 at noon, and end the following Friday on the 28th at noon. And then the elections itself, the first special election would be April 7th, 2020, and if there's necessary for a runoff, it'd be the 21st.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-02?
I'll make the motion to adopt Resolution 2020-02.
Motion's been made by Councilperson Urban. Is there a second?
I'll second.
second by Councilperson Roman. Madam, any discussion? Madam Clerk, may I have roll call, please?
Roll call, Councilperson Erba,
Yes.
Councilperson Roman,
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
We're gonna go right into reports. Now, the four things that I had in my report, I had as agenda items H1 and H2, which was the Resiliency Task Force and asking for the planning and zoning to be monthly. The third one, you'll see in K1, which we can talk about then. The next point is the installation of our new little library. I wanted it to be at its 5th anniversary, which would have been February 14th, but the designer will not be in that week, so we're gonna push it to March. So we will let you all know when we're gonna have it, and the manager's working with Public Works to design an area where a little library, it's an updated, larger version of a little library that we've first installed February 14th of 2015. So we're on our 5th year anniversary. We got some good news today from our legislating team in Tallahassee. But with that said, I'm going to defer to the manager's report, and she will brief you on some of the messages we received today.
Thank you. Yes, we did receive some really great information. We haven't had any good news from Tallahassee in a couple of years for our legislative priorities, so this was important. We got the information today that our House bills, 2 water projects, one is for the initial funding list of priority water projects were released today in the Florida House of Representatives, and both of El Portel's water projects were included. They are both in for $100,000 each, which is basically a marker, which will hopefully be increased as we move along in the budget conferences and budget process. And then later this afternoon, we heard that the House Transportation Budget recommended that our Horace Mann traffic calming request be honored in for $300,000 presently. So we're really excited about hitting the trifecta. We asked for 3 priorities to be funded, and so far all 3 have made it and have been agended. So there's more to come, but we're holding on to our place, and we'll see what comes down the pike tomorrow and Thursday as these requests move forward. So that's good news, and we will keep you posted as we get more information about those items. Do you want to finish your report, Mayor, or I can go on? Okay, well, I'm going to keep mine kind of brief because we've been very busy, mostly in terms of HR and staffing at the Village of El Portel this month, but we have also had a very robust discussion and presentation from Cristo Rey Miami High School regarding the sanctuary property on Northeast 2nd Avenue. There is huge interest from Cristo Rey to move their high school, or their Miami High School, to have a presence at the sanctuary project or sanctuary property, and they will be conducting town hall meetings for our residents to come out and just hear the presentation, hear what their ideas and visions will be. They intend to keep the facade of the church, which is wonderful for us. We like that beautiful church and would like to keep it as pristine, but I think that really adds a lot to our community to have that church occupied and for such a good program as Cristo Rey. So the town halls are planned for early February. We have not solidified the dates, but there will be 2, one on a weekday evening and another on a Saturday, either Saturday, February 8th or February 15th. We haven't come up with the date yet, but we will e-blast that information out to the community when we get it. So something is moving over at the Sanctuary Raider Church, and we're excited about that. We are also excited about a lot of other things happening here. We have a little bit more movement at our Cavista project, which is the annexed area, the development. We just completed, or I had a meeting with the owners to conduct their, or coordinate their traffic study of the area. So things are moving quickly with them as well, and we're excited to see that moving forward. The village is also about to experience a major traffic slash bridge renovation at North Miami Avenue. It's the bridge that goes over the C7 Canal, Little River. We're going to be seeing a closing of one lane for the next 12 months. According to Miami-Dade County, they will be renovating the bridge, so residents will have some issues with their commute on North Miami Avenue, but traffic will be diverted and it will be down to one lane as opposed to two. But it is all for the purpose of renovating the bridge and making it a lot wider, and also renovating it and making it a lot, just modernizing it and making it safer. So that is slated to happen starting early February. So we only have a few days left before the construction begins on that. And besides that, I've got new staff. We have a new Public Works maintenance staffer. His name is Angel Hernandez, and he started last Wednesday. And we will be having a new office administrator starting, I hope, on Friday. If not Friday, then Monday, depending on his schedule. So we're seeing new staff and changes, but we're still delivering an excellent customer service to our residents and making sure that our programs and services are not lacking while we staff up. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions to the manager? Hearing none, if I can have the village attorney's update or report?
Yes, just briefly, we have the arbitration for former Chief Huffnagel next week. It's going to begin here in Village Hall on Wednesday morning, and it's scheduled for 2 days. If it takes that long, it'll be in this room. Second, with regard to the school proposed application that we heard last week, I did some research as requested by our consultant and the manager, and wanted to make sure that it's on the record clarified that the property is required to go through the special exception process, and whatever was stated that day concerning grandfathering was not applicable to the site. So we will notify the owners of the school that that's the process that they would have to go through, and we look forward to looking at their application. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions to the attorney? Hearing none. Next, we have unfinished business and general orders. I wanted to bring up to the council, even though we're not all here, before Council Urban came on, I think before you came on, I recommended to the Admin and Finance Committee to explore and take a look at something. I missed that committee meeting. I had to be out, and the recommendation that I asked them to take a look at was our village is an incredibly small village, and when we go through a special election, because our charter mandates it, it costs anywhere between $15,000 to $20,000. When I took a look at other cities our size, like West Miami, I realized that in their charter, it dictates. Now, before I talk about charter, if we would like to propose anything in the charter, it will go to referendum, which means at the end of the day, the voters are going to vote whether or not they would want us to make this change. So I think it's important to make that clear. But what I noticed is that the Village of El Portal's charter does not really allow any wiggle room. So in less than 1 year, we're about to spend $30,000 on 2 special elections. Now, when I made the proposal back in May for the Admin and Finance Committee to take a look at amending it to give us some options, it was not even thinking that there was going to be literally a special election less than a year. With that said, as I said earlier, our current charter says that if there's more than 6 months left in a term, that we must have a special election. And as we went through a special election last year when Councilperson Dreher resigned in the middle of January after 2 months after an election that we had. And then we had to have a special election. We had it in April, March or April. Councilperson Elbrum joined our team. Now, literally 1 year later, we're in another predicament where we must have a special election. So my recommendation for the committee to explore and to consider, or even start thinking about what we can do, was not change the verbiage, but just add with saying that if you must have a special election, but with the majority of the council, maybe the council can appoint someone to that seat so that you do not have to go through a special election. I do believe with the village of our size, it needs to be taken a look at, because you all may not think this happens, but I've been here 10 years. This is my 3rd special election. Special elections can happen for any reason. Vice Mayor Nickerson is a result of a special election. He missed a signature or something like that back in 2010, and we had to have a special election in February of 2011. So, and each time we have one, it's an unplanned, unbudgeted item, and it costs anywhere between $15,000 to $18,000. That's a lot to bite for a village of our size. So the recommendation for the admin and finance, I forgot what committee it was, admin and finance or code of, I don't remember which committee I proposed it at, but I do remember I missed that committee meeting. And I think it was the summer of, I think you might have been in that committee. I don't think Councilperson Urban was on yet. Vice Mayor Nickerson and Councilperson Mathis, I believe, were in that committee or something like that. But again, it's something to think about. And the other thing that I do believe that we need to think about is every 2 years, all 5 seats are up. That has to be talked about at some point as we move forward with all of these projects. The continuity is going to be important. Whether it is that we appoint another charter committee, we did that back in, I think we had a charter committee revision. What was it, Hugh? I think back in 2008, 9, 11. Something like that. We did have a charter committee review comprised of residents, and basically every member up here, we appoint somebody to the committee and they take a look at our charter. But I do believe that as this village moves with all of these projects, that election needs to probably take a look at, and the way the seats are right now, we're all 5, stagger them somehow. It's something, again, it's just food for thought. But when I think I brought up in the summer, it wasn't entirely well received or well understood by the council. Again, I missed that committee meeting. But it's just conversation. And it's not to change the verbiage, it's to add verbiage. And I do believe that if the council, whoever the council can be, would appoint somebody, maybe it's a supermajority. Maybe it's not a 2, 3, or whatever the case may be. But again, all of that can be worked through a committee, and all of that can be worked through the committee and the attorney and brought to us. But really something for the council to think about with that special election as we are moving forward one. And I believe the clerk told us it's going to be anywhere from 10, 15, and it's more like $15,000, $16,000. So it's a lot. It's a lot for the council. I mean, it's a lot for our village. And that's the only reason I wanted to put that on the agenda, is to re-bring it up again, because it kind of it disappeared into an agenda item back in admin and finance. So I don't know if Councilperson Roman wants to add anything. I think you were there. Again, I was absent. And of course, Councilperson Urban can add any thoughts. Or again, it's just pure discussion. It's just to really start having that discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I was a part of that committee. That was actually brought up last year, and it was admin and finance. Vice Mayor Nickerson was the chair, and Councilperson Mathis was there as well. And both disagreed with the item. And so I was for the item, but it did not pass to go to full council, if I'm not mistaken. And so that's why it never came up. I do agree that we need to put something in. It's devastating that we're having to go through this, in one term. And I would hate to see us go through that again. And so I did email the attorney. I believe it was right after our last admin and finance, asking him for us to discuss that, because I did want to bring that back up. I also talked about with him about staggering the terms. I do agree that that also needs to take place. And so I'm definitely in support of all of that as we move forward. I believe that maybe appointing, or however we can build a committee for the charter, I think that that would make a lot of sense. It will engage the residents. They will feel engaged from the very beginning, and have a committee that truly understands, what this means to the village in terms of finances.
And important, and I know he said it, and Councilperson Urban is going to speak now, but anything that gets recommended, we can agree that we want to move forward, but it's going to go out to the voters. So if it doesn't pass, the voters are going to have the final say in that. We're just going to make the recommendation. Anything that deals with the charter must go to the referendum. It will go on the ballot. And the reason I think it's kind of important is because I don't know what the deadline, there is an election in November, right? Yeah, November. So it would be really prudent of us to have this conversation to see if we have the timeline to make it to that ballot. Councilperson Urban.
So as far as staggered elections, with 2-year terms, I feel like you would have to move the terms to 4-year to be able to stagger the elections. Otherwise, you're having an election every single year. And as far as finding ourselves in a position where we would consider having the council appoint a council member, this situation for some, I'm sure, qualifies as extreme. However, I cannot imagine the situation where I would really support the council putting a council person up here because of the sanctity of what elections are. I would be so outrageously hesitant to consider anything like that, but so I'll just say that. Now, having been in a special election myself and coming in with only 18 months left in a 2-year term, I will acknowledge that there is a learning curve and it takes time for a new council person to get up to speed. And looking at the situation we're in now, whatever council person would find themselves newly appointed would be on a sharp learning curve heading into making a decision whether or not they would run again in a handful of months. And so I certainly would be deeply empathetic to someone finding themselves in that position, and even acknowledging that it might be hard to have someone volunteer to run the special election, knowing that they would have to make a decision whether or not to run again in just a few months. And then as far as the cost, I will say that in theory we should have money in reserves to account for situations just as these, and so I would be reluctant to use the cost on its own as part of the calculus to decide to have a council appointed newly appointed member. And so as 2 special elections in less than 12 months or thereabouts, or almost exactly 12 months, something to that effect. If it's unrelated or not, I just want to give as an example the unknown cost we're already facing as we head into next week with Ronnie Huffnagel. And so we're trying to do the right thing in that situation, right? And so there's a cost attached to that. I see a similar through line in deciding what to do about this special election because of the need to be sure that we do the right thing in this situation. And so I just don't know that the cost on its own would be the reason not to have a special election. And so that in a nutshell is where I find myself sitting on this. I feel strongly that the way that it is dictated is that we will have a special election, and it's not ideal, but it is the way that it's outlined, and so I do not see a need at this point for doing something like creating an avenue where someone would find themselves on this council without having been elected. In a nutshell, that's where I'm sitting.
No, completely understood. One thing I forgot to also mention is sometimes appointees work out wonderfully, because in 2012, Councilperson Mathis had to resign. And he needed to resign way before 6 months, and he waited to resign because he was moving, and Adam Ohl was appointed. So there are many times that appointees work out really well, because what I found then when Adam Ohl was appointed, and by appointed means, let's say, for example, and also remember, it's an option. Whoever the council is going to be doesn't mean that that's the option you're going to use. Whoever the body is here, you're going to be like, you all will discuss. No, okay, what are going to be the procedures for appointing? No, we're going to have the election. And then at least you guys have a choice to say, maybe there's great candidates that are going to come forward. Not necessarily that Councilperson Urban is going to say, no, I want Mark, or, Councilperson Rome is going to say, I want Ethan, or whatever the case may be, You'll be surprised, people who have been involved may email or whatever, and then you'll have a slew of people that be like, oh, and then it becomes a majority decision. So, we got lucky in 2012 when Adam Ohl was appointed, it worked out. And then, he ran and he didn't win. So, and things happen, and he should have won, so I say that to say, just think about it. I completely, I would hate to have that decision-making power where, like, we're going to decide who's going to be the next one. But you never know. It could be people that are going to come forward that really want to be involved, and that maybe they want to try it out, and maybe they won't run. Whatever the case, it's just having an option. It's all it is. It's just for you all to have an option and not be stuck with just one way, and that's it. At least you guys will have the opportunity to have some type of conversation or discussion or whatever the case may be. But I completely understand it shouldn't just be on the money. I just think it's on the totality of everything. Councilperson Roman?
I mean, a thought that comes to mind is that maybe we can add, maybe incorporating a couple of residents that are not on the council to helping with the votes for the to appoint someone. In this case, we're having an election 7 months before another election. So that just doesn't make sense to me. And we are residents. So ultimately, we are also voting in an election for a candidate. So I don't see why we would not be able to, if we were to have this as a second option, the council can agree then. I don't know what other cities have done. Maybe we could follow what another small city, West Miami, or it doesn't even have to be in Dade County, maybe another small city somewhere else that has, see what they have. But I think an option is certainly important to have.
Again, total discussion. I encourage you guys, you both sit in the Admin and Finance Committee. I encourage you guys to take a look at other small cities throughout the state of Florida and see what they do in a situation like this. Call the attorney. That's what I did a year ago, and I asked him, and we looked at West Miami as an example. And actually, you know what? No, the mayor of Miami at the time, the mayor of West Miami was at a meeting that I was at, and her mayor resigned. And then, we were talking about how that works. I was like, oh, when is a special election? And then she says, oh my gosh, no, we couldn't afford that. And then that's when we talked about it. And then that's when I called up our attorney, and it came up here. Again, never thinking that we were going to be in this predicament. So again, food for thought, think about it. Digest the thoughts that as when you guys go into your next Admin and Finance Committee, maybe this would be great. Call the clerk, ask her when the deadline is to get it on the ballot, if that's something we're going to do. And then you might have to speed it up, because I would encourage anything that we do to put a committee of residents together to work through that charter, or maybe there's a couple of chapters that we want to take a look at and things like that. Again, pure discussion, but digest it, go home and talk to your neighbors about it, Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. Sorry, I have no new business. Anybody good in welfare? Hugh Gladwin, come on up. State your name and address for the record. I knew you were here for a reason.
Gladwin, 400 Northeast 85th Street, El Portal. Actually, I'm adding one item because I did have a comment to make about the discussion about special elections, if that's okay.
Of course.
And then I have two quick announcements. I really see the different sides of this, but, I think taking a slightly longer view, there's also been a problem we've had of sort of lack of interest when we had only one person running. I mean, when we had the last election, when it was announced there was going to be a special election, I said, oh no, we've had like 2 years of like people running unopposed. I mean, to me, it's a huge burden to be on the council, as you all know, and I've been very sort of dispirited about that, So when that happened, I was so excited that we had two really good people running. One won, the other one didn't win, but, and it's been great, but I think it's complicated. I mean, I would be open, and as you say, the people have to vote. This is a process, but I'd be open to making it 12 months rather than 6 months, maybe with a condition that it had to be a supermajority or something like that. So, I think it deserves discussion, and I think people will consider it. Okay, so two other quick items. The second is really some good news, I think. They're related. Last year, we didn't have the river cleanup thing. The main organizing team just ran out of time, and some were overworked. So we are planning to have it this year on March 14th. I just want to let you know, make sure there's nothing major happening at that time. It's not set in stone at this point, but we have to, does it look okay? Not okay. There's a problem. What's the problem?
I'm sorry, I said that is our Arbor Day celebration.
Or what?
Arbor Day celebration.
That's another item to talk about. The Arbor Day celebration is a requirement of the Tree City USA, and the Tree City Committee is it's less than the Little River Committee right now. There are only 2 members of our tree board. That was actually something I wanted to bring up too. I guess I need to. The 2 members of the tree board are me and Adam Old. I don't think, is the Arbor Day fixed in schedule or?
It's annually on that date.
Right.
And we have fixed it this year again.
I wonder if it can be changed or?
It's not up to me, but, we can
I mean,
review
in
it,
the
but
past,
quite honestly,
it's been put on by the tree committee and by the women's club.
We have a reso. The reso says that it must be done on the second Saturday in March. I mean,
For what, Arbor Day?
and we have 3 people that are interested in joining the committee.
Yeah, there are 3 new
The
members.
Arbor Day, tree board committee, chair board, yeah.
This is the committee that, like, from the women's club and? or
No,
this is-
we need a tree board to be able to be Tree City USA and
Right,
Arbor Day.
we
There's-
do, and
there's-
I'm on the
yeah,
tree board
It's
with.
you and Adam and Barbara stepped
Yeah.
down a few years ago, and we have 3 people that have reached out that want to be a part of it, and
Oh,
she was going to
good.
be contacting you guys to have a meeting, the manager.
Okay, because I'm just wondering if, given the timing, we could put that off a month to let the new committee get in and get that started, and also maybe, I think the village council has to act to add people to the tree board, because it's an official committee of the village.
I've got one question. What, in years past, what were the times of day that the river cleanup has been held? It starts
It's
early.
varied, and we could move it too. My main concern, I don't have a problem moving the river cleanup a week later. My problem right now is the people doing the river cleanup, which is the main people are me and Kristen and Adam are the same people that do Arbor Day, plus some other people.
Okay.
Like, I think, I mean, and for the other announcement I want to make, it'd be difficult to have, I mean, we could have Arbor Day in the tree and, you know, follow the river cleanup. That would be a possibility, and I can certainly raise that with people. I mean,
That's something to consider, if you could do it
Yeah.
early and then move that, then we all move into the Arbor Day celebration. It's just
Yeah.
that we planned it that way, it's set in
okay,
the
well, let
reso
me
and-
get,
And we are set with the Arbor Day board as well, because we do have more members now.
And now, I guess what could happen is when the tree board committee or board get together, if you all want to, so this is basically kind of like the same people with tree board and Little River, maybe you all come up with a way where, as we move forward, that you already know, maybe Little River's on the third Saturday or Little River's on the second Saturday.
right.
You know, and you guys have a sort of, because I think that's why we did the resolution, was so we
Right.
know that the second Saturday is Arbor Day.
Yeah.
But once you all get together, if you want to propose something, then bring it to us and you propose something, you know?
yeah.
So I think that's
It's just for
another way.
this year.
Yeah.
It's like so much is
And
going
it goes by
on. I mean, the
fast.
thing is, the river cleanup this year is also, you know, the river cleanup is an event that there's also participation by the city of Miami and Oakland Grove. And this year, I think the city of Miami Resilience Office
Mm-hmm.
is going to be involved a lot more. So it's kind of like Arbor Day is our thing, you know. But let me talk to the others, and we'll try to figure that out tentatively, maybe thinking for something that day or moving the river cleanup one.
My question to the attorney is, I guess we could take a look at the reso and see if there's a way to amend it for this year, or, I mean, and maybe have
I don't
Arbor
think,
Day
and
on.
I don't, my recollection is the status of the tree committee as a village body is governed by, you know, regulation, but I think in the past, we've changed the date of Arbor Day. I mean, I don't. maybe I'm
See,
wrong.
that's what we did, because it's like a fifth year, and I think the first 2 years it was like on and off, and then that's when I think we said, okay, let's have it
Okay.
on the second Saturday.
Yeah.
I think that's what
okay.
happened.
Okay, well, we'll look into it.
Maybe do it on the first Saturday this year, Arbor Day, or the third
Yeah,
Saturday.
or we
in
could do
March.
it, if it can be moved, I would say, let's move it a week up or a week down.
I'm gonna leave it to
Arbor Day.
Councilperson Roman. Aren't you the chair of that, Public Works or something? Yeah. Public Affairs, sorry.
Well, I do still have, not to, I do still have one question in terms of planning, resources, personnel, right?
Yeah,
Would there truly not be a benefit to having them on the same day, morning versus afternoon, where each event, people attending each event would be able to be aware of I don't know, in my mind, I'm sitting there thinking that it could be an opportunity to build awareness
yeah,
of
no,
both
I think
events.
you're right, particularly
But-
since.
I would love to have them both in one day.
So-
Yeah, and Arbor Day is in the evening, so
And then,
that's
and then that
Saturday.
and then that the two sites are literally connected by the river.
Yeah,
In my mind, I'm also, you know, anyway, so I understand that for this year, it may not work out that way because of the stress on the planners,
Yeah.
right? But in terms of going forward, it may be something that could be
no, that
beneficial
could
as a.
be, I'm hesitating mainly because I
Right.
can't speak for the others. so.
Sure.
Okay, the second thing, if I want to quickly announce, I don't know if anyone here remembers, but way back at the time of the first El Portal charrette in 1999, I think, or something, a big thing was there's a large plot of land across the river that featured in that charrette, which a committee put together a proposal to make into a park connected to El Portal through, you know, in the city of Miami. That plot there's been a long history of battles over that because it's been zoned for high-density development that would have a big impact on traffic. So the good news is that the Pelican Harbor Seaward Station, which is now expanded to do all kinds of wildlife rescue operations, is purchasing the property. I think they're signing this weekend. So that property will become owned by them. They're very anxious to be, you know, part of all the communities on both sides of the river. They want to match if the village is gonna be able to do its, I think it's budgeted $1,000 contribution for the river cleanup. They wanna match that. And part of the at lunch thing at the cleanup would be kind of introducing them. You know, they have like hundreds of volunteers and people, even though the development for us will be very low impact in the sense it's not a big sort of noisy operation they have. So, but that's very good news that that's happening.
Hey, that's excellent. I wish there was a way they would take our peacocks when they're injured, though. They don't take our
They'll take care of them. I think they tend to take care of wild animals. But the thing is, I think
Our peacocks are wild.
some people have suggested we need some veterinary and peacock breeding expertise over here to manage our peacocks better. And they do have a huge amount of expertise on every type of bird, and I'm sure they would be very willing to help out on that if it's needed, so.
Well, that's pretty interesting. I didn't realize it was gonna come through.
Yeah,
Very nice.
okay, so I'll get back with everybody and get right to you. I'll
Okay.
let you know.
Thank you, Hugh. Anybody else in good and welfare? Greg? Congratulations, you arrived a little late, but congratulations on being the winner. No, we understand you were coming from Fort Lauderdale. According to Greg, you actually do all the work, you come up with the idea, he does the work, something like that, right? All right, well,
Great job.
congratulations, and thank you for being here. Thank you for coming. Anybody else in good and welfare? Council? Manager? Attorney? No, it sounded like Omar Nickerson. Clerk? All right. Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made by Councilperson Rome. Is there a second?
I will second.
Second by Councilperson Urban. All in favor, signify